Welcome to the Disruptive podcast by Minority Innovation Weekend. Minority Innovation Weekend is a weekend summit dedicated to aiding innovators of color launch tech-focused startups, exploring emerging technologies and showcasing tech startups that have a founder or co-founder of color. During each episode, we will discuss innovation, tech startups, and more. Minority Innovation Weekend. One weekend, endless opportunities. Please visit www.minorityinnovationweekend.org to find out how to connect with us and to register for upcoming events.
Welcome to the MIW Disruptive podcast hosted by JLS Sir Walter and Jerome. Today we have a guest who's been a project manager for Airbnb, project manager for Oracle, and he has many entrepreneurial pursuits as well. I am talking about Prasanna Nayak. How are you?
Doing good, Jerome. Thanks for the introduction.
No problem.
So I think the most interesting thing to me was when Airbnb kind of stands out, because I know when I go on vacations, that's what I use. It's my go-to. So can you talk a little bit about your experience working as a project manager there?
Yeah, so as a product manager at Airbnb and a product manager at Oracle Cloud before. At Airbnb, I was in the developer platform product management team. So focus more on the internal developer team, the web platform team, and the native platform team. And Airbnb's product management team, it's very heavily, I would say, relationship driven as well. So that's one new thing, which was a bit different than Oracle Cloud or Riverbed or Cisco, which I have seen before.
Got it. Okay, awesome.
And in terms of the culture, I think Airbnb had one of the best cultures, people culture I have seen. They definitely take care of the people. There is a lot of initiative to inculcate underrepresented groups within the company. There are a lot of initiatives going on. So that way I felt Airbnb was much better compared to many other companies I have seen around, or at least the ones which I have know about.
Well, was that position, was it a remote position, or were you like actually in the office and things like that?
So when I started off, I was actually in the office.
Okay.
So I would travel from the South Bay to San Francisco and back. And after that, COVID hit and I've been working from home.
So how's things changed business-wise? I know with COVID, of course, it's remote now, those kind of things, but how else have things been affected with you guys in the business?
So with Airbnb, one great thing is they are very adaptive. The team immediately realized, since everything is going to be remote and people are not going to travel, they made sure to come up with some new products like Airbnb online experiences. Airbnb had experiences before, but then immediately adapting it and making online experiences was a great move. That generated a lot of revenue for Airbnb on its own, and also a lot of employment opportunities for everyone else who were not able to actually go out and make a living. This brought in a lot more, I would say, folks onto the platform as well, because there are people who would not go out and set up an experience like a live experience, but with an online experience, it was much simpler and it enabled people to communicate. I actually took salsa classes from folks who were teaching it in Colombia. And there was one more, the Feria classes in Spain. So it just opened up a lot of opportunity. So Airbnb is very, I would say, adaptive with respect to the market it sees, and it adapts.
So let's learn about how you got to be a product manager. Like, what was the steps that you used in order to get to where you are right now?
Yeah. So where I am right now is not at Airbnb, but yes.
I'll
definitely. Yes. So yes, so the Airbnb product manager role was something which I was very focused on. And one of the main reasons why I started looking out from Oracle Cloud, where I was working before, was because I wanted to move back to the Bay Area. And one of the top companies which were on my list were Airbnb, Netflix, Google, and Facebook. And with respect to the preparation, it was a lot oriented towards developer productivity as such, because that was the role. That was the role they were hiring for. I had to look at my past experience, how I can relate to what I'm doing right now, and how it will help the developer productivity team at Airbnb. So that was the first thing. And with respect to the interviews per se, it started at around 8 or 9 in the morning and went on till 5 or 6. So there are like back-to-back interviews. It typically starts with uh, a presentation as such. So they will give out a presentation for the product managers to work on beforehand, and you'll have like a week's time to work on the interview presentation. Then your interview starts with the presentation, and then it continues throughout the day. There are some rounds which are focused more heavily on the technical role or the product role which you're doing. And there are some rounds which are more on culture fit. I have seen uh, a lot of culture fit rounds at Airbnb, which I haven't seen in many other companies.
And you were saying that Airbnb isn't what you're currently doing. So I know you maybe can't go into super detail, but kind of just give us a kind of a little summary of what's going on with you right now.
Yeah. So I left Airbnb like 4 months back, and I've been building something with a co-founder in the SaaS space as such. It's a lot of fun.
Got it. And what made you, leave Airbnb and take the jump to, make this next move? I know it may have been scary or, something totally different out of your comfort zone, just up and leave.
From Airbnb as such, I think the most difficult decision was to leave behind the steady paycheck which would be coming in, more than anything else. But this was something which I've been very passionate about, doing something on my own, building something on my own. So it made sense that this was the right time, because we were seeing some sort of traction, and I wanted to do this full time rather than thinking about in my head or doing it over the weekends. And I wanted to explore this whole opportunity. And yes, it was definitely a very hard decision, but I think it was definitely the right decision.
Okay, and what exactly is SaaS?
So SaaS is software as a service. Previously, what used to happen was people would buy software which they would install in their data centers or in their branch offices, or think of an IT person taking a CD-ROM and going to each desktop, putting the CD-ROM there and installing softwares. So those are how software used to be bought before. But now what has happened is the same software as such is available in the cloud, where anyone can go online and download the software and start using it. And you can stop the subscription whenever you want. It is not something which you buy and you should have it for the rest of your life. So that's where the subscription part comes in. Software as a subscription.
Gotcha.
Software as a service and like a subscription model.
Okay.
I know with these startup, like just with doing a startup company, a lot of times it's hard to get the investing and fundraising that you need to kind of get out there and make this happen. Do you have advice for other, minorities that are trying to go into the same thing with starting up something of their own?
Yeah. The most important thing I would say is customer validation before anything else. Like, is there a customer for whatever you're looking into? Everyone has ideas, but then to bring these ideas into reality, even before trying to figure something out, what I would recommend is talking to customers or the potential customers. Try to figure out if this is even a problem, if this is something worth chasing, or is this problem solved in different ways. So that's the first problem. And once customer validation comes in, then I think what makes sense is to start building out something very small to see if this is what the customers actually want. Get some feelers out there, make pivots, make modifications based on more customer interviews. and eventually go into fundraising. And if need be fundraising, if not, if it's a business which can be just bootstrapped, then there is no need of fundraising.
Are you, well, right now you're in the early stages of your startup company. What resources are you tapping to kind of help you along the way?
So the resources would be engineering, product, design, some on the marketing side, some on the sales side. This would be the team which will be built. The other resources is the network of advisors and the network of people who can connect you with either potential customers or potential investors. So that's the other sort of resources which you'll need to tap into. So having a network is very beneficial. Network in both terms of hiring and also customers and investors. So those three would be the three resources which I would say everyone will have to tap into or build a network, because without a network, it's going to be very difficult to hire, to get investors, or to get customers.
And go ahead.
I was just going to ask the question. So like, how do you develop a team for your entrepreneurial pursuits? Like what was it like? I need this person to do that. I need that person to do that. So how did you figure out who did you want on your team?
So it all starts with overall design. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Overall design of the product. Like, what do you want the product to be? What do customers want? So you'll need to come up with an overall design. In that case, you'll probably need a designer initially. And then you would want to start developing. Now, in terms of development, you would need one front end, because typically most of the SaaS companies, SaaS products will have a front end. Then it will have a back end and it will have some databases. So you'll need a front end person, a back end person to take care of this. So that is designer, front end, back end. This itself is good enough to get something to an MVP state, to show it to your customers and see if this makes sense with the customers, if this is something which they will use. I would say these three are the most basic thing. Nowadays, people also don't look for separate front-end engineer, back-end engineer. They'll try and hire like a full stack engineer who can do both front-end, back-end. It will probably save some costs and also faster to market, maybe. So depends on what someone is building. If it's too complex, you'll need separate back-end. So these are the basics. And after that, you'll probably keep adding more people either on back end or front end based on how complex the product is getting, where the product needs more eyes, and then slowly start, once the product is ready, maybe hire a few folks on the marketing side who can take care of writing blogs, who can take care of posting on social media. Then after that, look at some growth hack techniques where you can see how you can scale it up from 1 to 100, not just 1 to 10. So based on those, you'll hire some growth marketers down the line. Initially, all the sales, etc., usually the founders do it, reaching out to customers, trying to figure out they want to come in. But after a while, you'll need to look at some sales development representatives, SDRs, to come in. So I would say these would be the typical hires as such.
And have you faced any challenges so far in this process? Any challenges, any stories that have come along the way that you faced so far?
Definitely, day in and day out, there are a lot of challenges. There are lots of ups and there are lots of downs as well. The biggest challenge is making sure whatever you're delivering is what the customer really wants. The prioritization is the biggest challenge. Figuring, because if you're talking to 10 customers want 10 different things. Figuring out what you need to build is the biggest problem, because if you're building, let's say, the 10th most priority, which no one else wants, even if you do like a release update and everything, customers like, okay, so what? So figuring out what needs to be built is the biggest challenge. Because I think as product managers or engineers who have some understanding of how to get the product built, they'll get the product built. It's about what to build when. That's the biggest challenge, I would say, depending on the stage of the company. Then there will be challenges with fundraising, a lot of other challenges. Yes.
When you're pursuing all this feedback from your future or current customers, where do you draw the line, as far as pivoting? Some customer wants a blue hat, customer B wants a red hat. Where do you draw the line? And I'm going to be like, I'm just going to stick with the blue hats right now. How do you make that decision?
Yeah, I think one of the most important thing is while prioritizing is figuring out how many customers want the blue hat versus how many customers want the red hat. And maybe the customer might be thinking they want a blue hat or a red hat, but the actual solution could be a purple hat because there's a different way to do it. Or maybe the system already has a workaround in how they can achieve what they want. So all these factors come into place. The first thing is trying to figure out the magnitude of the problem, and then how quickly can we build it based, and also how many customers want that particular feature. So it's a combination of this which will help people like prioritize the right product or the right feature. The more customers you want that product, and the lesser time to build it, that's like an easy win. Okay, a lot of customers want it. It takes 2 days to build it. Let's get it done. If it's something very big but very less customers want it, we'll push it down, or you break that into smaller pieces again. Let's say it's a very complex feature, then you'll break it down into what is the most valuable which you can deliver now, and try to get that done sooner. So there are multiple ways in which you can prioritize.
And I'm sure you've had success and failures. What's like one failure that you had that pretty much led you to a success?
Success and failure. I wouldn't term failure, but you learn and you pivot. That's how I would look at it. And one thing is very keenly listening to what customers are telling and how you're able to pivot. I wouldn't say failure. I'm trying to think of some example. Nothing comes to my mind right now with respect to failure as such, because we just keep pivoting.
That's a good place to be in when you haven't had too many memorable instances of failure. Well, even things that make you pivot that much.
Yeah. So failure. Maybe I can think of something where the customer goes on talking about a particular feature, how it should be built, and how we are not able to deliver it, or how it is not ready, or they were expecting something else. That's when you take the feedback and you realize you're not meeting customers' expectation, and you go back to the team, figure out how to get it done, and then you go and deliver it. That's probably like the closest example I would give. Hasn't been a failure as such.
All right.
You just pivot. You just have to hustle and make things work.
And I know you're speaking at the upcoming pitch competition, which is super exciting. Do you already know what you plan to kind of touch on during the pitch competition?
Yeah, during the pitch competition, I'll be touching on MVP, minimum viable product. How do you go about building your minimum viable product? What are the resources to tap into? What is available out there? How to quickly get it done? And what is required in a minimum viable product? All these aspects on how to build something small, do minute changes, and figure out if that's what customers want.
So I also saw on your profile, your LinkedIn profile, that you're an on-deck fellow. So how exactly did you become an on-deck fellow, and what is an on-deck fellow program?
Yeah, on-deck is one of the great founder fellowship and a founder community which I've found, I'm part of.
Okay.
I have been part of many networks, but I think on-deck founder community has been the most active, most helpful one. there are a lot of people who are trying to launch companies or who are trying to figure out what they should be doing next. And there are a lot of people who have idea on what they want to do, or they have already built something, they have some customers. Now all these folks come onto On Deck, where they meet each other, they build their teams, they find their co-founders. So that's what On Deck community is all about. You learn with the group. It is a cohort-based system where um, each cohort has around 100 to 200 folks, and there is a small interview before you get onto On Deck. Then during the 10-week cohort, I think they're changing the plan to make it like a year program right now, but the way it was, so the 10-week, they call in a lot of other people onto the platform. They get VCs from tier 1 VCs, angel syndicate fund leads. They get CEOs and CPOs, CTOs of major companies who have already built something valuable, and you learn from them. There will be a lot of ask me anything sessions. There are a lot of actual sessions where multiple VCs are coming in, and each one focuses on different things. And also, it's more like a buffet system where they bring in sessions on uh, commerce, e-commerce, fashion, SaaS, NFT, everything. And now it's up to the cohort to decide which one they want to attend. So for me, since SaaS and B2B was more interesting, I would only attend those sessions to figure out what's happening or get connected with the ones who are coming in. That way, it is great. They're launching many programs in different sections.
Okay.
Yeah,
How
it's
long
a
have you
great
been
founder community.
How long have you been involved with the On Deck program?
On Deck from last year, October.
Okay.
So the cohort was around 10 weeks, but after that, there's a Slack community which is very active. You go there and you ask questions like, hey, can you provide me does anyone know this particular investor? Can you provide me an introduction? Or I'm struggling with my B2B and go-to-market strategy. Can someone take a look? Or can someone review my pitch deck? Or can someone help me with my storytelling? And a lot of people jump in. There are these fundraising weekly sessions which go on, where everyone who's fundraising right now, we go to the call and we discuss how the fundraising is going on. What are the investors saying, and what type of answers are they looking for? What needs to change? So there are these smaller mastermind groups as such, which get formed at On Deck, which help each other on that particular area. It's a very helpful community, a network worth building.
And I know you said it's, 100 or 200 people or so, 10-week course, kind of making into a year, maybe soon. Is this something that is open to other people that maybe are listening that will be able to join something like this, or how would they get involved?
Yeah, you can just go to, excuse me, beondeck.com, beondeck.com, and you can register. That's the easiest way to apply for the cohort. There are a lot of cohorts starting, and there are many specific fields as such. I think they are starting around climate and one around deep tech, On Deck for product managers, On Deck for people who need not be founders, but they want to be one of the first employees in a startup, like the first few employees, the founding engineers, or the founding marketing product team. So they are starting all these different cohorts. So it's kind of becoming like a online university with all these top-notch folks coming in.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
And I know one of the main things the pitch competition focuses on is kind of making sure minorities get a voice, and that, they get an opportunity when it comes to this fundraising and investing. Just since your career, what you've seen out there, how important is it for these minorities that are having, starting these startups to get some kind of, get eyes on their stuff, to get, this fundraising and investing? And is there any advice that you would give anyone in that position?
Yeah. As a minority, I can definitely say that it is tougher compared to the norm, where it's probably easier to probably raise funding. And I'm very sure that's the same case, especially with even female founders. That's something which I've heard from many of my female founder friends as well that it is tougher, because what they say is if the same idea or if the same thing was being pitched by a white man, then probably they would have got more funding or more leverage. Things are changing, is what they say, but it is slower. So I have seen this. Now, with respect to fundraising, I think building a network is very important. Getting warm introduction definitely helps. If you're going to the venture capital website and just applying there online, there is lesser chance of it going through the full review compared to someone providing a warm introduction. So what I would recommend is reaching out to founders who have already been funded by those VC firms and building relationship with them, showing them that you have built a product or you have certain customers who are using this, and then asking them for a referral to the VC firm or to the agent syndicate lead. So that adds a lot of value, because now it's like a trusted founder referring someone else. So that's one of the best ways. The other way is to figure out who else is common connections with that particular VC firm and why you want that VC firm, make a really great pitch on it. So these could help, but yeah, building a network is the most important.
Do you rely on social media to help build your network? I know a lot of people are, using that to their advantage. Would you suggest using that as well? Any certain platforms?
Yeah, so I have been very active on LinkedIn from quite some time. So that has helped me a lot. Twitter was something new for me because Twitter, I would say a lot of VCs hang out on Twitter. So that's the thing. So you'll need to build some profile out there just so that you can also connect with them. But I have also realized it's also like the more you build a personal brand, it's going to help any day, not just for fundraising. It's the personal brand will also help you get more customers, more validation. So being active on social media platforms like LinkedIn or Twitter will always be beneficial. There are many ways to do it. You can create your own content or you can engage with others' content, but being active over there will definitely help build some credibility.
How can someone reach out to you to link up with you?
Yeah, the easiest way is to just hit me up on LinkedIn. I do keep checking Twitter nowadays, but easiest way is to just connect with me on LinkedIn. That would be the easiest.
And just under your name, correct?
Yes, Prasanna Naik.
Okay.
And I kind of want to know a little bit about your backstory, about how you even got started with all of this. So it says college, you got your master's degree, and then what was kind of the first jump into the field that kind of gave you that push?
Yeah, so I've always been wanting to start a company. I think the first experience was at Riverbed, where I realized we can create a new product to a new market based on the existing product we had. So Riverbed is into, I don't want to go into much technical details. Riverbed is into WAN optimization, wide area network. But what I was proposing was that the same product, we add in few more layers on top of it, and it can be made into mobile optimization, like LTE network optimization. So that's how I started off with that idea. And I started reaching out to the product managers in the company, to the engineering managers, then the engineering directors, then the engineering VP, product management director, VP, then eventually the GM, chief strategy officer, multiple people in the company to talk about this new idea as such. So I would say that was the major trigger point as such. While I was back at Riverbed, I was parallelly exploring a startup in India in 2016, which was into virtual reality. And I have been dabbling around with multiple other ideas. 2 years back, I went through Founders Institute, which is like a pre-seed accelerator with a mentorship marketplace idea. Think of it like Uber for mentor, doing some validation around it, building something out, testing it out. I was also looking into a different tool which helps converting text to audio or audio to text. And there are a lot of other use cases there. Then I was exploring one thing which helps product managers get make decisions faster by getting all the decisions and succinctly showing it. So yeah, there are a lot of things which I have been playing around and then eventually found something which makes sense.
Got it.
I'm glad you found something that makes sense, and hopefully it makes money too.
Yes, that's the main point. Yeah, it makes money, and if it's making money, then it will create employment. So that's how I'm looking at it.
What resources do you, or did you want to go ahead, Ron?
Oh no, go for it.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, you have a lot of knowledge here. So what resources do you use to just stay up to date, keep yourself informed? Any like podcasts that you listen to or books that you read, anything of that sort that you would suggest?
Yeah. So I'm a very people person. So most of my information, I rely on my network. Uh, the ones which you don't find it on websites or anything. So that's the first thing. The second one is when I wanted to do angel investing, I started listening to podcasts. So there is Jason Calacanis podcast on Angel. I think it's called Angel Podcast. Started listening to that, then started reading online, and reached out to a couple of folks who had actually done that. So that's the best way I learn, where I reach out to folks and I also build relationship with them eventually. LinkedIn, I just reached out to folks whom I did not had never met them before, but they had angel investment on their profile and they had written some articles, learned from them. And that's just one example on how my typical learning goes. I wanted to learn few things about growth marketing recently, and I reached out to someone on Deck who had built a platform which had went from 0 to 1 million users now. So just get on call with them, understand how they are doing it. They had written some blogs and articles, quickly go through them. Those are my ways in which I try to learn on things which interest me.
Okay.
Yeah, it also builds relationship. Now, next time I want to hire a growth marketeer, I'm going to reach out to this person and ask him, would you recommend someone? Or next time I want to do some angel investing, the other person whom I had connected, either way, he's already sending me deals, which he sees. So this helps. So online resources are great, but also building some personal relationship with someone else will always help in the long run, the network as such.
Yeah, that sounds like some great advice right there. Have you ever had an experience where, you're trying to network with somebody and they're not as helpful, or they're a little standoffish, or like, how have you navigate, scenarios like that?
I think that's something which everyone will have to get used to, because if you're sending out 100 cold emails or 100 cold LinkedIn reach out, only 10 people will respond and you'll build great relationship with one. Either whether it's your customers or your peer founders, because everyone's busy doing their own thing. So I wouldn't blame anyone who hasn't responded, because they are all busy in their own thing. I would give the benefit of doubt, because everyone who has already achieved that success level, everyone wants to talk to them, and there's definitely no time for them to spare with everyone else, right? So that's how I would give them the benefit of doubt. In terms of people not responding well, I think you develop a thick skin after a while,
Right.
especially when you're a product manager, or especially when you're talking to customers or talking to investors. You'll develop a thick skin. You're like, okay, yeah, I've heard this, but I've heard great things somewhere else also. So I'll take a mix of both. If need be, I'll pivot. You'll learn, but yeah, you'll have to continuously reach out. There is no way unless you reach out, you'll not know.
Very
you
true.
cannot hold back just because 2-3 people said, this doesn't look great.
Right.
That
Can't
can-
give up.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
can
you can't give up.
be
You
key.
need to keep hustling. Yeah.
And before you even, I mean, I always am amazed by people that quit their jobs, because this is something I'm sure people think about. They're like, I wish I could just quit and start my own thing and, put my idea and, work on it full time. So were there any things that you were doing to get prepared? I'm sure you knew ahead of time you were going to, step away. So were there any things you were doing to get prepared before you went ahead, put that 2 weeks in, or, removed yourself from that company?
So for me, there are quite a lot of things. Excuse me. One is definitely to make sure the financial situation was right. So excuse me. So me and my wife Spurti, we went through our financials, did like a quick check on, okay, what's like our spend like, because we did not know what our spend was like, because she also works, I also work, and you never bother checking your budget much. Like just talking in terms of a lot of people, that's what I have seen doing, that they do not care until that point comes when like, oh, okay, next paycheck is not going to come in. So we have started preparing for that. So it was not like a random rash decision that, okay, I'm going to quit in the next 2 weeks. It took quite some time to internalize both in myself, in Spoo's head, my wife's head, and also to keep my family also, what do you say, feeling safe back at home, that I'm going to quit in some time. So get ready for this. So those are the first things I would say, rather than like a random decision. Okay, I'm quitting tomorrow, and everyone is like under shock. So easing that decision. So that would be the second thing. So the first one is making sure your finances are right. Second is keeping your folks up to date that this is coming in. What else comes to my mind? So all this is easy to say, but to be very honest, the 2 weeks before I put in my actual paper, I was very confused because Airbnb went IPO after Airbnb went IPO in December, and I quit around April. So the more I stay, the more stocks I get, and Airbnb stock was doing really well. So all these things do come into your mind, but then you look at the bigger picture. Will you staying one more quarter at Airbnb will help more, or will you dabbling with your thing for one more quarter will help more? What is going to move the needle the longest? So that also comes into picture. So that helps. But eventually, developing conviction is something which everyone will have to do it on their own. Make sure that you have some customers who will eventually buy whatever you want to sell, because that's the most critical thing. Many people are great at building products, but they do not know if customers need it. So figuring out something someone wants to buy, I would say, is a very important thing. So make sure you have your finances right, then inform your family, and you know what you're doing next, where someone is going to buy your product. So I would say those are the three things.
And I mean, that was around COVID time. I mean, so did COVID even play a factor for you in your decision? Was that like when that happened, was that a red flag? Like, oh, I need to wait a little bit, or was it like, no, I got to keep going?
It was during COVID time, but it was also at the end of COVID time. I would say, like, it was like months back. COVID hit last year itself. So I do not think COVID played much on my mind when I was taking this decision.
Okay.
Yeah, but I also know a lot of Airbnb folks and also Uber, a lot of people during COVID time who got laid off, they did start their own companies. They were dabbling with it on their part-time as their side project, and they made it their full-time gig. So the motivation can come the other way, which is not great, but yeah, I've seen that also working out for some folks.
Well, I want to thank you, Prasanna. Thank you for being a guest on the podcast.
Yes, I think that was great information for the viewers. So thank you so much.
We appreciate you, and we hope to hear from you again in the future. Yeah,
definitely. This was great. This was one of my first podcasts, and very happy to have been talking to you folks, Jerome, Jaila, and Walter. This is just great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love what everyone's doing at MIW, because we need more help in getting the minorities and the underrepresented groups, the female founders, everyone else, not just founders, like just who are trying to break into things, some more opportunities. At the end of the day, it's more network, more connection. So if I can be helpful, very happy to do one more call.
Awesome. We got to bring you back once your startup is, making all that money, so we can talk about it.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Cool. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
All right.
you.
You have a good one.
You too. Thank you, everyone.
That wraps up this episode of the Disruptive Podcast by Minority Innovation Weekend. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. Check us out online at www.minorityinnovationweekend.org and connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.